Toompine, known as the pub with no town. And there certainly is no town. There's a hall, bit of a facility for playing polo, I think, tennis court, playground, and the pub. You can camp there. It's free unless you want power, and there's you get half a dozen or 8 in on power. $10. $10 for power. You need to be early, and of course we were early. Only travelling from Quilpie, which is 80 kilometres to the north. We are here on the Dowling track, and it was once a Cobb and Co stopover place, but there's oodles of them. The Dowling track, of course, runs from Burke to Quilpie, about 570 kilometres up through Hungerford. If you remember the story in the Quilpie video about the guys carting cattle out of Bulloo Downs 36 decks at a time to the Quilpie railhead, he told me that occasionally the brakes worked, pull up at Toompine, have a feed, and when they're on a bigger break, a little bit of drinking and being merry before they got back in their road trains and back on the job. The road from Quilpie, the same as the road from Windora to Quilpie. Narrow gauge bitumen and in places tyre gutting rocks on the shoulders. I'm assuming because that is what the flood has left behind. Needed to be quite careful getting off and passing all of our Victorian brothers and sisters still heading north. It sure would be something negotiating triple road trains on said narrow gauge road, especially if you mean multiples of them at a time. I could see some people's sphincters tightening quite a bit. We dined that night at the pub, as did pretty much every camper there, which in my experience is unusual. Most folks seem to soak up the free camping and dine in their vans. Always helps in places like this to spend a little bit of cash. In fact, the pub was reasonably well patronised. Even in the morning, folks over there getting their coffee. Seemed to be a fair bit of money left behind there, which is good. Here's a bit of vision from around the yards and of the pub itself. I was on a bit of a video photo holiday actually, so it didn't take any gear into the pub when we ate, and being a little bit childish, I videoed the fire pit in slow motion with me speaking in slow motion. Interesting effect. Got a bit of astro done. It's a shame that windmill didn't turn around a little bit. I guess I could have shifted very short bit of time under the stars. And the pub looked sensational at night, but I'd packed up, and as I say, I was on a bit of a holiday, a bit lazy, but my wife snapped these photos just on her phone. And I did think that there was far too much light variance, and I would have to do some thinking and figure out how to do it. Disappointed now that I didn't pull the gear out and do it, but she got some good ones. It was a super busy sky over Toompine or from Toompine. Lots of meteors, satellites, whatever. But in the 15 minutes we were out, where you can see what was happening if you watched that a couple of times. So that was out one night in Toompine. Plans for the next night were Yower, but that didn't go to plan. In this bit of road, look at those shoulders. We are between Toompine and Yower. They're fixing it all up by grading the shoulders wide and sticking some rocks, some blue metal to the edges with some hot bitumen. It's a wild bit of gear, but good shoulders for vision. Also good shoulders for getting off should you meet a large truck. So the plan was we were going to stay at an opal mining town or opal fossicking town of Yower. We also discussed staying at Alroy or Alroy Station, which seemed to have fantastic reviews, people talking about it. Not that I'm one for reviews, but the great Bob Denny, the solo builder, had been there and spoke very highly of it. When we got to Yower, it was one of those places that just didn't grab us. Again, no bad reviews, but just didn't grab us. I don't know if it's because you're expecting something and it doesn't turn out to expectations that were unrealistic anyway. But anyway, we decided to push on and finished up heading to Thargomindah, another town absolutely ripped apart by the 2025 floods. Thargomindah it was to be then.